very much indeed, Madam Deputy Speaker. It's a privilege to rise as Dartford's first Labour MP for 14 years, to welcome the first Labour budget for 15 years. And just before I do welcome that budget, I do want to pay tribute to those who have made their maiden speeches this afternoon. They've been inspiring, they've been personal, they've talked about their own journeys, and they've talked lovingly about their constituencies as well. So thank you very much for those, and congratulations to them. Madam Deputy Speaker, Dartford, like much of the country, is at a crossroads after more than a decade of Conservative failure, with our economy stagnating and our public services broken and unable to be the safety net that my constituents need. We on these benches were elected having promised change, and yesterday's budget delivered that with a hugely welcome focus on investment to get our economy moving, setting the foundations for growth and beginning to fix our schools, our hospitals and our broken roads. And I have to say, listening to the contributions from the honourable members opposite, I was somewhat astonished to hear member after member talking about how they wish to see public services improved in their constituencies without willing any means to pay for it. And them, like the honourable member for Romford, seem to want European levels of public service on American levels of taxation. Well, I'm here to tell you that that isn't possible. But what we're achieving on this side of the chamber is European level public services, European level taxation, but European level taxation that is borne by those with the broadest shoulders and the best able to provide that level of taxation to keep our public services going. The Chancellor in her statement yesterday was absolutely right that we must grow our economy, and nowhere is this truer than in the Thames estuary where Dartford is situated, which has the potential to be one of the engines of growth for the UK, with 1.3 million new jobs, 1 million new homes and £190 billion worth of additional value added by 2050. I hope through this Parliament to work with MPs from across the House and the estuary region, as well as ministers, to make some real progress on this. And work is being done as we speak towards the establishment of an all-party parliamentary group on the Thames estuary to work with ministers on the fair growth agenda set out by the government-sponsored Thames Estuary Board. For those, and I'm sure it's a small number, who have followed my short parliamentary career to date, it will be of no surprise to learn that I believe a crucial part of investing in the estuary will be getting one key shovel-ready piece of infrastructure done, the Lower Thames crossing. We currently only have one road crossing over the Thames east of London, and that's at Dartford. A single point of failure that not only blocks crucial freight from moving across the country, but also makes the residents of Dartford's lives a misery as traffic gridlocks. This is one project that could begin very quickly, with a planning process already undertaken and a delivery team in place. In short order, this would mean the creation of jobs across the local area and move us towards unlocking the largest bottleneck in the UK. And I look forward to working with the Chancellor and her colleagues across government to agree how we can get the finance in place to get this project started. Madam Deputy Speaker, Dartford is lucky to have a District General Hospital at Darren Valley where the staff work with dedication every day to support our local population, but after 14 years of the Conservative government, waiting lists are far too high and the Accident Emergency Unit lacks the capacity to see people quickly. The latest figures indicate that more than 26,000 residents are waiting treatment, and more than a third of them have been waiting for longer than 18 weeks. The announcement by the Chancellor of £25 billion over 2 years for the NHS to cut waiting times with extra elective appointments and capacity for additional procedures should begin to bring these waiting lists down. The recent Darcy report into the NHS highlighted how we need to be far more creative in how we keep people healthy in the long term, building prevention into the system. I hope that ministers will recognise that opportunities for people to get involved in community activities that help us lead more active, healthy lives are emphasised in this budget. and that much work is done to tackle health inequalities because these opportunities are not spread evenly across the country. And on the subject of prevention, I particularly welcome the proposal that the sugar tax should be reviewed so that its extension to milk drinks can be considered. And I'd wish to see that consideration extended to other products, including foods that are high in salt, fat and sugars. An obese nation, Madam Deputy Speaker, cannot be a healthy nation. I also want to touch on an area that's of personal importance to me. 6 years ago, my mother was diagnosed with dementia after her memory began to fail. And I am proud that thanks to the NHS, she herself got good quality of care and leads a high quality of life. But as a former Cabinet Member for Health in local government, working across the NHS and council boundaries, I know that this is very often not always the case. One thing that we could do to make life better for those like my mother diagnosed with dementia is to do that diagnosis early and do it accurately. This means that it can be better managed with the right treatments, and those people diagnosed and their families can prepare for the care they need. I hope that ministers will use the extra investment to look at how we make this happen within the NHS. Dartford residents will welcome 2 other sets of critical measures in the Chancellor's speech. Like many colleagues across this House, I know from my many conversations with parents of children with special educational needs how inadequate and broken provision is, both across the UK and in Kent. On top of the significant increases for schools and further education, the new £1 billion announced yesterday will now add resources to the review of SEND announced by the Secretary of State for Education. I also want to welcome the steps the Chancellor has taken to tackle crime and making people feel safer on our streets. Across the country, our sense of security has been eroded with levels of antisocial behaviour and shoplifting far too high. This budget will put us on the road to delivering the manifesto pledge to boost visible neighbourhood policing with 13,000 more neighbourhood officers and PCSOs. And for too long we have tolerated, as other members have said, high levels of shoplifting in our town centres. Thanks to the effective immunity for low-value shoplifting introduced by the previous government, retailers and staff live in fear from individuals and organised gangs which target them. The additional funding to tackle this and provide more training to our police officers and our retailers will help stop shoplifting in its tracks. Madam Deputy Speaker, it's clear that the problems we've inherited from the previous government are substantial, but the budget has laid the foundations for us to begin to tackle them. Steps to boost public investment, to cut NHS waiting lists and to fix our schools will, I know, be warmly welcomed by Dartford residents and show that the new Labour government is on the path to delivering the change that our country voted for. Yeah.